Cedar Falls, Oregon, woke up the way it always did in early spring, slowly, with fog drifting off the Willamette River like steam from a giant mug of coffee. Pine and cedar trees stood tall behind rows of craftsman-style houses, their porches decorated with wind chimes, faded American flags, and muddy boots lined up like loyal soldiers. The air was cool but hopeful, the kind that made people unzip jackets by noon and swear winter was finally losing. Jake Miller, 29, assistant manager at Driftwood Café and part-time dreamer of someday doing something bigger, burst out of his rented duplex on Maple Street with a backpack half-zipped and the travel mug sloshing dangerously close to disaster. He wore dark jeans, worn sneakers, a flannel over a hoodie, and a beanie that never quite sat right. His hair stuck out anyway. Jake's place looked like many in Cedar Falls: gray siding, narrow porch, a rusting bike chained to the railing, and a flower box his landlord kept insisting he water. He checked his phone. 7:42 a.m. The bus came at 7:45. Of course, Jake muttered, locking the door and jogging down the sidewalk. The number 6 bus was his lifeline to downtown, where Driftwood Café waited with its espresso machine that hissed like an angry cat and regulars who demanded their lattes like sacred rituals. Jake rounded the corner just in time to see the bus pulling away, its backlights blinking like smug little eyes. No, no, no. Hey, wait, he shouted, sprinting and waving both arms, coffee splashing onto his hand. The bus did not care. It disappeared down Pine Avenue, leaving Jake bent over, hands on knees, breathing hard while a jogger passed by giving him a sympathetic thumbs up. Jake straightened, wiped coffee off his fingers, and laughed in disbelief. Perfect. Just perfect. He checked his phone again. Another bus wouldn't come for 40 minutes. Calling a ride would eat half his tips. Walking all the way downtown would take nearly an hour, unless he cut through the Riverbend Trail, a winding scenic path most people saved for weekends. Jake stared toward the trail entrance at the end of the block, where fog curled between trees like something out of a movie. Well, he said to nobody, guess we're going on an adventure. He started down the trail, sneakers crunching over gravel damp from last night's rain. The river flowed beside him, wide and silver, birds skimming its surface. Sunlight poked through branches in broken beams. The town noise faded, replaced by water, wind, and distant train horns. 10 minutes in, Jake nearly collided with Ruth Palmer, a 74-year-old retired school secretary power walking with neon sneakers, a visor, and enough energy to embarrass people half her age. "Mornin', Jake," she called, barely breaking stride. "You look like you're being chased." "Just by adulthood, Ruth," he puffed. She laughed. "Takes the scenic route sometimes." Jake kept moving, soon passing Evan Brooks, a high school senior practicing skateboard tricks on a smooth patch of trail, headphones blasting. Evan wiped out dramatically, popping up with a grin. 10 out of 10 for style. Jake called. "Still counts," Evan shot back. Further along, Jake heard arguing, playful, but loud. It was Tom Nguyen, owner of the Bright Orange, Far on Wheels, food truck, wrestling with a flat tire while his teenage daughter Lily Nguyen held a jack like it was a wild animal. "It hates me," Lily said. "It respects no one," Tom replied. Jake set down his bag and helped them change it, earning a grateful bow from Tom and a fist bump from Lily. "Come by later," Tom said. "Free spring rolls for heroes who miss buses." Jake grinned. Best missed bus ever. As he continued, he noticed how alive the trail felt. Dog walkers, parents with strollers, older couples holding hands, cyclists ringing bells, all sharing smiles and quick hellos. It was like Cedar Falls had a second heartbeat out here that Jake had never bothered to listen to. By the time downtown appeared through the trees, Jake was sweaty, late, and weirdly, lighter. He burst into Driftwood Café 20 minutes behind schedule. Jake Miller, called Maya Lopez, the lead barista, early 30s, sharp eyes, camera always slung over one shoulder even at work. "Did you fight a bear?" "Worse," Jake said, panting. "I fought personal growth." They laughed as Jake tied on his apron, the smell of coffee wrapping around him like home. Even though he was late, he couldn't stop smiling. Because somehow, missing the bus had made the morning bigger. If scene 1 was about being late, scene 2 was about being right on time. Just not for what Jake had planned. The rest of Jake's shift flew by in a blur of espresso shots, foam hearts, and regulars complaining lovingly about the weather. Cedar Falls locals had strong opinions about drizzle, sunshine, and whether either could be trusted. Jake kept catching himself smiling at nothing, replaying the morning's unexpected moments like highlights from a game he didn't know he was playing. After work, instead of waiting for the bus, Jake slung his backpack on and headed back toward Riverbend Trail. Maya noticed. "You walking home now?" "Apparently, I'm a trail guy," Jake said. "Who knew?" She raised an eyebrow. "Careful, next thing you know, you'll start liking kale." They both laughed. The afternoon sun had burned off most of the fog, turning the river bright and blue. Jake slowed his pace, actually seeing things this time. Moss on rocks, ducks paddling, kids skipping stones. He passed Ruth Palmer again, now stretching near a bench. "Back already?" she teased. "Figured I'd make it a round trip," Jake said. "Good," Ruth replied. "The long way keeps the heart honest." Further down, he ran into Evan Brooks again, now filming skateboard tricks with friends. They waved him over, insisting he be a background extra in their video. Jake jogged awkwardly through frame, tripped on nothing, and earned a round of applause. At a bend in the trail, he found Tom Nguyen's food truck parked for evening business, steam rising from pots. Lily waved him over. "You're back, hero." Tom handed Jake a container of spring rolls. On the house. Trail discount. Jake sat on a nearby log, eating and laughing as people lined up, chatting like old friends. He realized he was talking to folks he'd lived near for years but barely knew. All because he'd been forced to slow down. As golden hour settled in, Jake pulled out his phone and took a picture of the river glowing in the light. He sent it to Maya. "Jake, scenic route is undefeated." Maya, "Told you, sometimes late is better." By the time Jake reached his duplex, the sky was streaked pink and orange. He sat on his porch steps, spring rolls beside him, watching neighbors come home, kids on bikes, couples walking dogs, someone practicing guitar through an open window. He thought about his life, how often he rushed, waited, complained, planned for someday. Missing that bus hadn't changed his job or his bank account. But it had changed his day. And maybe, if he let it, it could change more. The next morning, Jake didn't run. He left 10 minutes earlier, coffee in hand, and walked straight to Riverbend Trail. He greeted Ruth, cheered Evan, helped Tom set up, took photos of sunlight for Maya. The trail greeted him back like an old friend. Weeks passed. Walking became habit. Habit became reflection. Jake started applying for photography classes at the community college downtown, something he talked about for years but never acted on. The trail had shown him that moving slower didn't mean standing still. One evening, as he walked home with Maya beside him, camera in her hand, coffee in his, she nudged him. "So," she said, "what happens if you catch the bus again?" Jake thought about it, then smiled. "I hope I don't. Because sometimes, the thing you think you're late for, is just trying to lead you somewhere better." And in Cedar Falls, Oregon, on a quiet trail by a shining river, Jake Miller finally learned. The long way isn't a mistake. It's the point.
Daily happiness and motivation is hitting in. Like and subscribe.